Welcome to Elevate the Game, where DFW's top leaders drop gems on success, strategy, and legacy with your hosts, George Abreu and Eric Badiwala. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Elevate the Game. We're excited to have our guest here today, but before I introduce him, I just want to say, welcome to another episode. Thanks for being here. We love being here, and we love sharing knowledge. Really, the goal of this podcast is to elevate the game, right? So, but what we mean by that is we want to deliver value to you however we can, right? So we interview all different types of leaders, industry leaders in their own professions. We talk about what they do, and hopefully that'll help you, in your business or what you're doing personally to either motivate you or take you to the next level. I think with our guest here today, Mr. Jim Bright, we're going to be able to do so because he's a player in the space. He is a leader in the IT staffing business. He's been in the business 26 years. He's an owner and partner of GTN Technical Staffing, which is located here in Dallas. That's where we're located too. And we're excited to have him here today, man. So we're going to explore, how he approaches the top 10% IT professionals, how he gets them, how he helps your business, and maybe just a little bit about Jim and the challenges that he's seeing and the opportunities that he's seeing in the staffing space. So, Jim, thanks for being here today.
Hey, it's exciting to be here.
Yeah,
Always
awesome.
exciting to meet new people and share the knowledge.
100%. So let's get into it, Jim. So why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit about, yourself and, if you're a resident of Dallas or been here in Dallas, your entire life and, how you got started in the staffing business. What made you get into this business?
Well, I was one of those guys. I graduated college. I wanted to be in sales. I wanted to make a lot of money, and I kept failing. And I got really good at looking for a job, and I kind of woke up one morning and thought, maybe that's what I should be doing for a living is helping people find jobs because I'm really good at it. And I kind of poked my nose around the industry for a little bit, sniffing it out and checking it out. And finally decided to take the plunge. It was 100% commission, so it was high risk, but I like that. I like high risk. I like waking up every morning, for lack of a better phrase, unemployed.
Yeah,
I'm unemployed every day until I make a sale.
100%, man.
Right.
Hey, look, no risk, no reward.
That's right. It kind of lights a fire under you a little bit to get going. And I went to work, and every day it was a kick in the pants. And I can't believe what an idiot I was yesterday. And that went on for months.
Every day's a learning experience, man.
Yeah, it's just a fire hose of information that you're guzzling down. And but it was exciting and it was fun. And I've actually been in the business almost 30 years because I went to go work for a company that's long gone. They've been purchased and gobbled up. But there was something I was missing. And, God bless him, he gave me the gift. He gave me the gift of giving myself permission to fail. And I was so scared of failing when I got into the business, especially being 100% commission, that I wasn't doing what I needed to do. I wasn't willing to step outside of my comfort zone. I was willing to take a lot of risks, but I wanted every sale to go through.
Yeah,
right.
Because it's not reality.
And I was, I'm clutching on, see if I can hold on to this. Is clutching on to every little sale, like it's fine.
Yeah.
And that's just no way to conduct yourself. And about, I don't know, around 6, 8 weeks into it, he pulled me aside and he said, look, I budgeted for you to blank up $40,000 in business. Would you please go blank up $40,000 in business? And my reaction as a young man was, really? That's okay. All right. And Katie barred the door. All of a sudden the doors just blew off and my production went through the roof overnight because of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, it's crazy how that happens, right? It's
Yeah.
like you're grinding it out, and then all of a sudden you make it, right? And you're like, hey, or
Yeah.
this works. Not that you make it, but you're starting to have success.
Yeah. But
I mean, I
I
could,
really think it was a change in my attitude. It was like it doesn't. Don't worry about the individual sale. Worry about making sure you're doing the best job you can,
yeah,
no matter the outcome of the sale. And the sales will come as a byproduct of that. And I was kind of missing that component at that stage of my life. And being told it was okay when somebody rejects a job offer or a client rejects a candidate as not being a good fit, realizing that was really actually part of the game,
yeah.
that's what really gave me the liberty to succeed.
Man, nobody bats 1,000 for 1,000, right? You know,
Yeah, nobody.
I mean, you got to strike out.
Yeah,
And then I think, it's so cool that you said that, man, because it's just part of the entrepreneur journey, right? And you don't know what you don't know. You didn't have the experience of, dealing with that rejection, if you want to call it, And then you
yeah,
have to realize, like, look, not everybody's going to say yes, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a loser or you're bad at what you're doing. It's just, it's just part of the game, And sometimes people just don't do business with you because they just don't connect with you, right? And
that is
not that you're a
huge.
bad guy,
What you
but
just said is so profound. It's not anything you did wrong. They just don't connect. And it's not that they even dislike you. It's just you're just
yeah.
not a match,
Yeah, you're just not a match. I mean, it's
and
like
that's okay.
it's like a girlfriend or
Yeah,
your wife, right? You got to be compatible, and I think in business it's the same thing. Um,
100%.
I think that's a good thing for maybe some we have a lot of people that are just getting started in the business, right? And it's important to
Yeah,
just connect with people, establish relationships with people because that's really how businesses it gets done. Sometimes they may not even 100% understand it, but if they like you, they'll roll the dice and they'll go with you, and then you teach them
yep.
along the way. Well, that's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I had a similar experience, when I first got started in real estate. Went out there, got educated, applied what I learned, and first couple of weeks, actually in 2 weeks, I made $26,000, and I'm like, oh man, this works. And
There you
although I
go.
was making a ton of mistakes, I learned like, hey, look, it was good to make all these mistakes, although it was a short time period. But man, and once I made that money, there was a fire under me, right? My story was a little bit different, but once I closed my first deal, it was like, hey, I could do this, right? And
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if all these people tell me no, sellers and stuff like that, but somebody's going to have a problem and they're going to want me to help them, and that's exactly what happened. So, man, I love hearing these stories because it's like as entrepreneurs,
you said something that made me think of another thing that really had an impact on me. When I was maybe I'd been recruiting for 2 years, I was making really good money,
yeah,
and I was hanging out with a friend of mine at my home, and we're doing a little grilling, a little beer. And I said, I cannot believe how much money we make doing this. I cannot believe what companies are willing to pay us to do this. And he said, you're wrong. I says, what do you mean? He says, we're paid what we are paid because so few people can do what we do.
yeah, delivering
And
value.
that was another one of those key moments in my career. Is like, you're right. Very few people have the tenacity, the chutzpah, however you want to
Yeah,
pronounce it,
yeah,
the intestinal fortitude to do what we do. What we do is in recruiting, it's really hard. You're selling real estate. The property doesn't go, nah, I really don't feel the vibe here.
yeah,
We're not gonna lease that space to that guy. That just doesn't happen. If the
yeah,
credit's good, the space gets leased, right?
yeah,
But in recruiting, the client has to be excited about the romance. The candidate has to be excited about the romance. And
yeah,
the client has multiple people they're looking at, and the candidate has multiple people they're looking at. And so you really are creating a romance.
yeah.
And you're selling both sides of the table. A lot of people think recruiting isn't sales, and I just kind of laugh at that because 100% recruiting is sales and is a brutally hard sale because you're selling again both sides of that picture.
May have to change your title to VP or President of Romance.
Well, I've actually likened what we do to a dating service more than once.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
We
So,
just get the wedding present if it works out.
yeah, 100%, man, 100%. So Jim, tell me, about GTN and, like what's your typical client, like the people that come to you, the companies that come to you, what type of companies come to you, and say, look, these are our problems,
Yeah.
help me.
Well, it's interesting because nobody goes into hiring saying, "Oh, I want to pay a big fee
Yeah,
to
they
hire
feel like
somebody."
they can maybe do it themselves,
Yeah,
right?
they want to try to do it themselves. They want to put an ad out on LinkedIn or whatever it is. And a couple of different things happen. The most likely is they're going to be inundated with a bunch of people that simply are not qualified for that job. It becomes a beatdown. The people that do look qualified may not get properly vetted. What an agency really brings to the table is a lot of that deep know-how and that craftsmanship, that knowledge of how to do things because we're doing it all day long. I'm going to tell you, this is a personal story. It's very basic and it's very simple, um, but I think it illustrates kind of what the variance is. I purchased a new home with my wife a long time ago, and she wanted to change all the shrubs, all the bushes in the front yard, all the landscaping.
Yeah.
Oh boy, this is going to be a full Saturday of, back-breaking labor with a pickaxe and whatnot, because a lot of these bushes were, you knew that the roots were very tangled under there, and I knew it was going to be very hard work to get those out. And her dad, who was in his 60s at the time, looked at me and just said, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, I'm a young, strong man, and no, I'll do it. He's like, no, 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 I'll do it. Man, okay, fine. Show me. And so Saturday comes on, and again, I'm thinking I need to go buy a pickaxe at Home Depot, and like, no, 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 I got this. Okay. Well, he comes. Do you know what a sawzall? A sawzall is a reciprocating saw. For those
Yeah.
in your audience that may not know, it's basically a long saw blade that simply moves back and forth, and there's nothing on the other end. And so he brings a sawzall with some old blades, plugs it in, turns it on, jams it in the ground next to the bush, goes around the bush, and plucks it out like it was a potted plant. And he had every bush probably took 15 to 30 seconds maximum to get
Wow.
out of the ground. Every bit of landscaping was out of the ground within an hour. And the guy barely broke a sweat. And I'm standing there slack jawed.
Yeah. Like, how in the world did he just do that?
Oh my God. And I realized this is where skill meets experience.
Yep.
I had the skill, but I didn't have the experience to do it cleanly, efficiently, and effectively.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what a staffing agency really brings to the table because we're in it all day long. We've all had our rear ends handed to us numerous times.
Yeah.
We've all, like I said, those first 9 months in the business, I can't believe what an idiot I was just yesterday.
Yeah.
And that deep, intense knowledge. And we're working not with just one company. We're working with 100 companies. And they all have different needs and different priorities. And I might have 3 clients with an identical need. They're all on paper, they're all looking for exactly the same thing. But what the company really needs is something different. It's a different personality. They've got different goals and objectives for
Yeah.
that role. And so candidate A isn't going to match client A, but they might match client B.
Yeah. Different cultures for sure.
Yeah, it's more than culture. There's a lot to it.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I think, you hit it. I mean, hiring an expert in the field, right, is the
Yep.
best way to do anything, right?
Yep.
For us in the apartment business, if I need to go get insurance, I'm not going to go try to like figure out the insurance game on my own, right? I'm going to go to a broker that knows how to shop insurance and rates, right? And you have to think about it as a factor of time too. Like I got a ton of things to do. Why not? It's much easier to pay a professional, and although you may think it's expensive or whatnot, I mean, it's valuable, right? Because most people don't realize, the X multiple you may get on the back end from hiring a quality person that a professional would do versus maybe something that, you maybe get
Right.
a mediocre person, right?
100%. That's something that I think is really good. And you never want to settle,
Yeah,
especially when you're hiring for a critical role. You want to make certain you're getting the best possible option.
yeah,
And the best possible option, quite frankly, is very rarely, excuse me, very rarely You're not gonna find them on Indeed. You're not
Yeah.
gonna find them on ZipRecruiter. You're gonna find them through networking.
Yep. Relationships.
Yeah, and we kind of refer to ourselves, GTN stands for the go-to network. That's kind of like, KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. We just call it the go-to network because that's really what it is. I made a presentation today, and we have a very strong reference on the guy because we placed his last boss last year,
Oh, wow.
right? And he told us all the reasons why this person is a fit for our other client and why he's not a fit for our other client. So I was able to share, I actually presented this candidate about 15 minutes before this got started, and we're able to explain, hey, this is what we like about this guy for
Hmm.
you as our client, but this is where we're concerned about him as a fit for you
Hmm.
as a client. And it's very important we get both of those things in there so we expose everything so our client can make an informed decision.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And I was just thinking, like, from a practical side, right? Like, I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I think, I worked for one employer out of college, and that was about it. And obviously
Yeah,
prior to that, but, so it's been a long time since I went. Actually, I used to work for a recruiting staffing company, an accounting recruiting staffing company when I was in college. But, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm a professional, right, and I want to get the most exposure, I'm going to go to a recruiting staffing firm because those guys have all the relationships. They know
yeah,
all the big dogs, all the corporations. They're going to be able to place me, right, easier than I could be able to place myself, right, and find me better and expose me better. So, there's so many benefits to going with, somebody like yourself if you're in the IT space, whether you're on both sides, right, whether you're looking to get a job or you're looking to hire, right? And most people go to you because they want to hire somebody, right? But it just makes more sense to me.
yeah,
You know, get the professionals to do it and don't try to, reinvent the wheel.
100%.
Um, so Jim, what type of companies come to you? Do you work with like small businesses? Are you working with like Fortune 500 companies? What's kind of your typical clientele as far as corporations?
We actually have Fortune 50 clients. We're working globally with them. We're in 6 different countries right now, which is always very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And yeah, and you talk about different cultures. It's an eye opener when you work with different cultures on things like that. You've really got to keep an open mind. You've really got to do your homework in a scenario like that. But we've actually got startups too. I mean, I did a startup.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of different startups actually, and I've got a real soft spot in my heart for that.
Hmm.
And big companies they're such different animals because they're much more process oriented.
Hmm.
But yeah, we definitely serve both. We have a lot of mid market. Our priority is really finding the company that is growing
Yeah.
and is motivated to do the best hiring they can.
Yeah.
We work best with a company that wants to hire the best possible people, as opposed to this will do. That's where we really shine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you treat it more as a partnership, right? Like, hey, let's work together. I want to grow, right? You have the contacts. Let's work together to be successful, right? And I think, that's the recipe of business, right? So I think, that's cool. That would be my target market too if I was in your shoes. I think that's a good
Yeah,
target market to have. So, and look, I know that the staffing business is great. I mean, you've been talking about, your success and how well it's done for you. And I got a close buddy of mine who just sold his healthcare staffing business last year for $80 million.
all
Private equity
right.
came in. Yeah, right. I mean, that's exciting for you, man, because, and it was crazy. I mean, he was telling us a story how the wire hit, right? He got like 40 million up front and then the rest of it is coming later. But when he hit the 40 million, when the $40 million wire hit his account, he like, about, had an accident in his pants. He was like, holy cow, this is crazy. And he actually, I saw him last night actually. And he couldn't believe it. But, so I mean, to that point,
Good for him. It's money is simply an indicator of a job well done,
100%.
right?
100%. Yeah, he did a
So
great
good for
job.
him.
Yeah, and then a lot of these private equity companies come in and then they do a terrible job,
Yeah,
and they take your baby and they turn it into what what it wasn't, or
yeah.
something totally different. But um,
We've had the offers, but I'm having too much fun, to be blunt.
yeah, and then what are you going to do after, right? Um, But I mean, so what's your? I guess that goes to my next question, Jim. Is like, what's your goal with the company, and like, what does your outlook look like for this year, 2026? Now that we're in the new year, obviously you're
Yeah.
having fun doing this. You've had offers to exit. I mean, seems like you just want to continue rolling. You want to continue to help people grow. But what are some of your initiatives for this year as a company?
We are so bullish on 2026. Admittedly, there's been a couple of hard years,
Yeah.
but we've kept our head above water. We've made a profit. We're doing well. And we actually just got two big projects on Monday for
Hmm.
2026. We're very excited about. We're continuing to grow. We want to add to our client base. Um, we're going to add to our team as the demand increases. So for us, the future is bright. There's no question about it. We're seeing a lot of activity out there. It's just exciting. It's we I just don't believe that if you've got the right attitude that a recession or an economic pullback
Yeah.
applies to you. If the economy is down a little bit, it just means you got to work a little bit harder to earn your keep. In my
Yeah. Yeah. You got to pivot, man, and you got to figure out another
Yeah.
way, right? I mean, that's
And
just what
we've
you
actually
do.
done some pivoting on a few things.
Yeah.
We had a few big clients that kind of, they struggled a little bit last year. It
Hmm.
forced us to pivot, but that's what you do. You've got to be nimble. I call it mental agility and verbal acuity.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to bounce. It's
No,
it's like
you always got
parkour.
to
You
be
got to
ready, man.
bounce around.
Yeah. I think in overall, the economy is still, it's not great, right? It's slow.
We're seeing a lot of good stuff out there in the economy.
Yeah. I mean, things are picking up, right? And I think a lot of
Yeah,
people have outlook, and it depends on the industry you're in, right? Like for us in the multifamily space, interest rates have kind of killed us, right? Interest rates have remained high. They went
yeah.
high, and they've stayed there. And although they've come down a little bit, it hasn't been enough relief, right? So the real estate space has kind of struggled a little bit, but just like any market, it comes back, right?
Yeah.
You got to hold on until the market improves, and it always will. So I think a lot of people are optimistic for 2026. That's
My
the
motto is always bet on America.
Yeah, 100%. We ain't going anywhere else. Uh,
Absolutely.
I mean, this is where, opportunity lies and everybody wants to come here, right? Because there's so much, opportunity, especially, right here where we live in Dallas, Texas. I feel like Dallas is one of the most opportunistic cities in the country.
Agree 100%.
Whether you want to have a corporate job or whether you want to, be an entrepreneur. I mean, I love it here, man. I've been here since 2008, and I tell all my friends and family that don't live here, like, man, if you really want to thrive, come to Dallas because there's just so much, everything goes so far here. Versus other places in the country. Like, for example, I'm from Miami, right? In Miami, your dollar doesn't go very far. Things are difficult. Traffic is crazy. There's not the southern hospitality you have in Texas. Nothing against Miami. Obviously, I love Miami and, my family back home, but things are just more challenging. Um, so anyway, but yeah, so looking into the future, Jim, I think, a lot of our listeners, they're always thinking about, and this is a question I want to pose to you, is they're always looking at ways to like create more passive income, right? And one of the things that we do on our side of the real estate business is create passive income for them. So just wanted to get your thoughts in general on passive income and, maybe some of the things you do, if any, to create passive income, or is the go-to network basically your main source, and just in general, any advice on passive investing that you could give the audience?
There's a lot of sources of passive income. What I prefer is simply to invest in stock.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any type of real estate investing in the long term that outperforms the stock market. For example, my best options, the best things I've done for passive income is simply buy and hold in stock, and I've invested in other businesses. I've purchased other businesses that have done well, and I've grown them and I've sold them off. I've done a little real estate too.
Yeah.
Bought a warehouse, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and with the intent of renting the space out. And about 6 months later, somebody came along and said they wanted to buy it. And I threw a stupid number down, a number that I thought was stupid, and they took it. I'm like, oh, okay.
Okay, let's go. Let's roll.
That works.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. I mean, you never
Yeah,
know what somebody's going to take or offer, so all you can do is ask.
Yeah, my only regret on that was I should have asked for an even stupider number. I was shocked they
Right?
took the number I put down. It was ridiculous.
That's funny, man. Yeah, I think, the stock market is definitely a good place. A lot of our listeners, they definitely invest in stocks. It's long term, it's tried and true, and it's been around forever, right? I think, everyone knows like, the real estate business has created more millionaires and billionaires than any other industry. I think, if you're in the long term hold game, you can, definitely make some good passive income on the real estate side. So, it's a little bit of both, right? I think a lot of our listeners do both, right? They invest in stocks, they invest in real estate. Personally, I stick to real estate, but that's kind of what I, live and breathe every single day. Some stocks, some crypto, and I think diversification is important. And making sure you don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Um, so,
Well,
any,
everything goes up and down. The real estate market goes up and down.
yeah, they
Goes
all
up
go up
and
and down.
down.
They all go up and down.
Stock market goes up and down.
Yeah,
At this point in my life, I've realized you just have to sit and weather it. And,
yeah,
when it tanks, you got to take it on the chin and just, say, thank you, sir. May I have another? And,
yeah.
hold. Um, Somebody told me once, don't panic sell because all you're doing is locking in your losses.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, you got to remain calm, cool, and like collective, man. You got to just continue going. And
Yeah.
like we talked about earlier, like nobody's gonna win all the time, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna take some losses, but that's part of the journey, And I think, you sometimes when you take those losses, you learn more than when you win, right? Which makes you better, which helps you
Yep.
win more, right? So it's like it's part of the game. When you don't lose, you
Well,
don't.
it teaches you. One of the interesting things about this business is you come into this business and you're doing a deal, and I'm talking about staffing
Yeah,
specifically, and you think everything's going to go great. Everything just seems to really be lining up perfectly, and then it falls apart. And it looks to the untrained eye to be a random event.
hmm
And then another random event comes along, and and you start seeing a lot of random events that come along. And if you're doing a lot of business, if you're doing a lot of deals, it takes time, even with all those deals, to begin to recognize the patterns,
yeah,
and that willingness to accept that where there's smoke, there's fire.
hmm
And it's one of the most frustrating things I have when I train people, because I'll bring somebody into the business who's never done it before, and I'll train them up, and their typical response is, "No, you don't understand." And I'll say, "Well, I usually just kind of let them roll with it. I says, it's okay. You do your thing. You do it your way. But I'm telling you, this is how it's going to play out." And they'll go and they'll do it their way, and then they come back to me typically, and hat in hand, and want to know, how did you know?
yeah,
And my response to that, I'll tell them why I do, which is the same thing I told them up front. And then I'll ask them, now, I'm paying you a salary, right?
yeah,
I want you to answer for me. Why would I lie to you? Why would I try to encourage you to walk away from this deal because I don't believe it's going to go through?
yeah,
You insisted I was wrong. You pursued it anyway. Then you found out I was right. What makes you think I'm not going to communicate the truth to you?
yeah.
And then as they grow through the process and they figure it out, then they start to see the patterns too.
hmm
This is a tough business, and that's one of the things I love about it is you
Yeah,
never know what's going to happen next. There's always a left hook. I've been doing it 30 years, and there's still going to be a left hook that comes at me. I know there are more left hooks out there I've never experienced.
yeah. Well, that's
And
what keeps you
that's
going,
okay.
right? It's something new every day, right?
Yeah,
Because if it was
it's
the
exciting.
same thing every single day, you probably get bored and be like, I don't want to do this no more.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Um, well, it's awesome, Jim. I think this has been a great time, man. So what, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in contact with you? Email, phone
Yeah,
number,
hands down, LinkedIn. You can
LinkedIn?
find me
Okay.
at Jim Bright or Jim Bright on LinkedIn. Very easy to find.
Yeah.
Company GTN. I actually host a weekly podcast. We've been on hiatus for about 3 weeks for the holidays, but I'm going to crank it back up today. It's called Deep Recruiting,
Nice.
and it's available on YouTube, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Spotify, and iTunes podcasts. So, and that's
Awesome.
just 10 to 12 minutes every week. And I try to
Yeah.
give a specific tip on how to succeed in this business. I try to keep it short. I do a daily, it used to be 4 days a week. I'm cutting it back to three. I call it a bright bomb. And
Yeah.
you can follow, pound bright bombs. And it's now going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings where I try to give a quick 15 or 30-second success tip. Just kind
Yeah.
of a quick in and out, try to get you started at the beginning of the day with something positive and something exciting.
Awesome. Well,
And
man,
so,
lots of
yeah,
ways to
that's all
find
out
you.
there.
Yeah, lots of ways to find you. And, for anyone that's listening, I mean, yeah, I think that podcast can be very valuable. Um, so thanks for your time today, Jim, man. This was great
Appreciate
just
you.
chatting. Thanks for elevating the game for all of us here locally and, globally in the IT staffing space. I mean,
Oh,
it sounds
thank
like you're
you.
doing awesome things. And, we hope to, connect with you and, continue to, grow our relationship and hopefully you can grow a future relationship with some of our listeners here as well. So appreciate you being here today, Jim, and thanks for all of you listening today. And, we'll catch you next time.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Elevate the Game. If you're a mover and shaker in DFW with game to share, apply to be a guest at elevatethegamepodcast.com/guest.